This is exciting. This front ring here, it's a magnet. So if you have magnetic filters from Kase, they just magnet right to your lens. I would love to see that in every single lens that is manufactured from this point forward. This is the Kase 85mm f1.4, and we're going to go take some pictures in real life, and I'm going to talk to you both in person here and also in voiceover about this lens. Also, all the images you're going to see in this video are edited by Imagine. My hat, they're the sponsor of this video, and if you want to get my profile, my Imagine editing profile for free, use my link in the description to sign up for your free trial. And if you do like it and you do sign up to pay Imagine money, at that point, you will get my profile for free. There's no easy automated way or possible way for me to give you my profile for just signing up for the trial, which I originally wanted, but unfortunately it's just not technically possible with the system. So once you sign up officially, you get access to my profile for completely free. Usually it's $250 on its own, but for you, no money if you sign up with that link. So give Imagine a shot. Everything you're going to see in this video was edited, and I didn't really touch anything. I just kind of hit the button and then hit export, and that's what you're seeing on the screen right now. F1.4, 85mm. This has been, I would say, my go-to lens for the majority of my professional career. And now Nikon, they don't want to let us have a Nikon version of it. They'll give us the 1.8 and the 1.2, and it's off to Kase, I guess, and Viltrox to create the 85-1.4s. I think the Viltrox is coming, hopefully. For this being basically they're a filter company and now making lenses, this is a really, really strong market offering kind of right at the start. And it's also very, very nice that it's available for Nikon as well. So I talked about 85mm being my #1 go-to lens for most of my professional career on DSLR. There are weddings on the channel where I shot only with an 85mm lens that I probably cheated a bit, and I probably shot some exteriors or a few family photos with maybe a 35 or a 24 on that day. But the majority of the work, or pretty much 98% of the work on that day, was with an 85mm prime. This was the kit. Well, it was a DSLR and the 85-1.4G. I don't know what the deal is, but I just love that focal length. I feel like 85, the first time that I got into it was the first time that I was like, wow, I can take really nice pictures because there's so shallow depth of field. I'm so professional. And I know that's a bit of a joke, but I think it's also a little bit true that you really can create something that impresses yourself when you start shooting with an 85mm lens wide open. All of the images shot at f1.4. I love the look of this lens wide open. I love the look of most lenses at 1.4 wide open, and I am happy to shoot them like that all day. I will say that mirrorless autofocus capabilities are amazing, and every single shot from this entire shoot was in focus. I also updated the firmware of this Kase lens before going out, and the firmware update was interesting. So I'm used to going into some sort of app or utility, and sometimes it only works on Windows, sometimes it only works on Mac. With the update for this, they said that there's an autofocus, I guess they tweak some stuff. There's USB-C on the bottom, and you plug it in and it pops up like it's a hard drive, and then you just drag the firmware file on there, and then it unmounts the hard drive, I guess, the lens, and then it remounts it, and then your firmware is just up to date. It was really, really nice. So the blessing and the curse of mirrorless and everything being in focus is that it used to be that I would maybe deliver from an engagement shoot like this, maybe I'd give them 20 to 30 images. Now, when I go through and I do that initial color, you can even cull and Imagine and have it help you out if you want. The numbers that I'm getting back, it's usually somewhere in the 140 to 200 image range. I'm not gonna give my clients all that because it's a lot of repetition, that it's only one outfit and it's maybe 1 or 2 locations, so they don't need 200 photos from that. I am going to give them probably 60 to 70, which is still a lot. And I do my best consciously now to frame things differently and to just create something that's a little bit different. These shoots are kind of limited to about an hour, maybe an hour and a half maximum. And especially if you're shooting, so I do maybe 40 weddings a year now. And if I've been doing 40 weddings, that means I'm probably doing 20, 30 engagement sessions. And it's very easy to get in the flow of just like, I know it's gonna work, I know how to make this happen really fast, and just kind of almost put it into a process or an assembly line. I do my best to not let that happen. I know that I shoot the same locations pretty often. You've seen the same wedding locations on the channel a lot. It's because one, I'm a preferred vendor, which I feel like is nice for some people and not nice for other people. It's nice in terms of stability that I know I'm gonna be working at those venues over and over and over again, and that's awesome from a business sense. But from a creative sense, it's a little bit challenging, I think, for some of us to go into the same venue 2-3 times a month and shoot something that's a completely different wedding day or feels good to you. And I guess from a perspective standpoint, there's a pretty good chance. There's sometimes I will be shooting maybe family members or friends and people that have been in bridal parties of other weddings. But for the most part, I'm shooting a lot of disconnected people that have never met each other. And if I replay some of the same shots, I know what works in those venues. I know how to efficiently get some beautiful work. It's just less time for me to kind of fumble around and be like, oh, this location didn't really work out that well. Let's go over here. I know all the spots that work, so I'm happy to shoot them over and over again. And while I am going to give some variation, I'm not going to do a completely different thing every single week. I'm not going to show up to a wedding and I'm only going to shoot with 35. And then the next week, I'm only going to shoot with an 85. I don't really care too much to do that. I want to create a very great quality of work for my couples and something that they're going to be happy with, something that's going to get passed down generation to generation. And I also want to leave the smallest footprint on the day possible. I don't want to completely take over their cocktail hour if they want to be part of their cocktail hour, they want to see their guests. I'm not going to take that full hour or 2 hours or whatever it is to just go out and do photos. If that's what they want to do, maybe we're going to do a first look. We're going to do the majority of the photos of them, and then maybe during cocktails, we do the family photos, and that's it, and then they can go enjoy their day. Now, the 85mm focal length, the reason that I think it is good for an all-day lens is because it allows at least me to get most of the moments that I want as a somewhat introverted person. Manny Ortiz and I did a video on this lens a long time ago, or on the 85mm focal length, where we called it the introvert special, or the introvert lens. And I like the fact that you can be a little bit further away from your couple, but you rely on the glass to get you a little bit closer. So you are getting those really nice intimate images. 85, I would say, is the borderline. So a 135, you start to really feel the distance and the separation from the couple. With 85, I'm pretty happy with it. There's absolutely something to be said about the 35mm focal length, and when you're at 35 and you're really close to the scene, it really brings you back there and you really feel like you are there in the moment. At 85, it's going to feel a little bit more editorial, and I am personally happy with that and happy to accept whatever that means into my work. Now to talk specifically about this lens here. You have two buttons, and I guess you can map focus settings to it. So if you want to set a focus point, you can hit the button and it goes back. If you follow the channel at all, you know I never use those buttons really for anything. I also don't really do anything that I'm going to have to do very specific focus actions like that. There is an autofocus, manual focus slider, which I really, really like. I am sad to see these disappearing off of other lenses because I think it's really, really helpful for me. And especially on these Nikon camera bodies, while they are customizable, I've kind of maxed out all the customizable buttons on this body. So to have that autofocus, manual focus, really easy, specifically for when I'm doing hybrid photo video coverage. And if you are a member, you have access to the Taylor-Jackson method, which is the way that I go to a wedding day, and I do both photography and video as well. And while I'm not going to shoot my entire video in manual focus, there are definitely moments where I need to quickly go into manual focus and just basically lock a focus point. On DSLR, I used to have a button that would just let autofocus lock. I didn't use it for video, but there was an autofocus lock button. Now I just use that slider quickly instead. So I'm really, really happy to have that. There's also a click on and off, so that's for your aperture if you want it to be stepless or you want it to click. I will make it click because I do wish, so one thing missing from this lens, you can't just lock this at A. So on A, you get to just use this as I guess manual mode. So the front wheel on this Nikon camera here is my aperture. And if I'm on A, I control the aperture with that. If I've gone all the way over to 1.4, then my aperture is gonna be 1.4 and I can't override it. I wish so badly there was a lock on A, or it was just like a lot harder to pull it off of. It just kind of feels like another one of the aperture steps. So that's a bit of a bummer. I'll see in real life if I actually hit it very often. I will for sure, I think, notice if I'm all of a sudden shooting at f/16. But that's pretty much my only criticism with this lens. Going to voiceover and capybara b-roll. So I noticed something a few days after I recorded this video, and that the front element, it tends to be a little more prone to fingerprints and just stuff getting on it. It does wipe off, but maybe not as well as other lenses. So something to keep in mind, but really not that big of a deal. Also, the flare tends to be a little crazy also. So if you like crazy flare, that's awesome, and I do. But if you like really controlled and no flare, you'll have to be a lot more careful with this lens. As you can see the images, I'm really happy with them. If you're comparing this against the 85 1.2 for Nikon, you're gonna see some differences. You're also gonna see a big price tag difference as well. I personally really like the f1.4 aperture. It allows me to get that shallow depth of field, but it also puts it in a package that's this small, which I really, really appreciate. Well, the 85 1.2 is an amazing piece of technology. Unfortunately, I think I've used it for maybe one wedding day and it was on loan at that time because it's just way too big and it's way too heavy and it's way too expensive. If it was the only lens I was using all day, so if I had that in a 35 and I knew I could go out to a wedding day and do that, amazing. Maybe it's worth it. Maybe that's gonna be a lens that continues with me. For me personally, on a wedding day, maybe this is a bit weird, but I have one over the shoulder bag and I want everything to fit into that. And if I have that 85 1.2, It's like a kilogram and a little bit, I think. And it absolutely takes up one of my pockets, and that pocket could be better used for something that's more versatile, like the Tamron 35 to 150 f2 to f2.8. And if you follow the channel, you know that Tamron lens is the greatest ceremony lens really ever made. It could be an all-day lens. And actually, I've talked about this on the channel as well, that the perfect wedding kit for me is kind of that lens, and then an 85 1.4. And the reasoning about the 85 1.4 is because I like to have a smaller lens once it gets to be the ceremony. If I am doing just capturing speeches and podium shots, I don't need a 35 to 150. It's pretty heavy, especially during speeches. Typically, I try to get some sort of happy moment, some sort of serious moment, maybe a small tear. And then at that point, I usually, if I have to be somewhere that's a little bit awkward, at that point, I withdraw myself. And if I am waiting for those moments, a lot of the time, you're just either in your viewfinder or just holding your camera up. And that camera does get pretty heavy. You could have a monopod, obviously, or a tripod if you really wanted to. But I like to have just a smaller kit when I'm up there. And this 85 1.4, it gets what I need. It goes really, really low light. So all the way to 1.4 means that unless, especially with newer camera bodies, if people physically can't see in the venue, you're gonna be in trouble. But as long as there's candlelight or some sort of light, which there usually is at a wedding, it's not in the dark completely, you're gonna be totally fine with this 1.4. When it comes to autofocus, I really didn't see any misses from this lens this entire shoot that I did. I really appreciate the fact that it seems that Nikon just allows everything to function. So third-party glass, when it comes out of Nikon, it seems like the IBIS is the same in my camera. It seems like the autofocus is the same. I know there's another brand that maybe when you put a third-party lens on your camera, maybe it's not going to give you the full frames per second, or it's going to make the IBIS really bad to convince you to go with their own glass. It doesn't seem like Nikon's doing that, which is really, really awesome. The physical of this Kase lens, I don't know what the materials are, but it feels nice. It feels versatile. It says it's weather sealed. The other thing with weather sealing, I guess, for me with an 85 is that if it's raining, yeah, I got to be able to go out and do the wedding photography thing. But if it's raining, my couple's not going to be in the rain. Or maybe they are, we're going to have an umbrella. I can have an umbrella too. So it's not the most important thing in the world for me. But it is nice to know that you're pretty protected against the elements, and maybe more so in the winter. I feel like winter in Canada, when it's snowing, you kind of forget that snow is also liquid, and when it starts to melt on your camera gear, that can cause some problems. Although I have had, I'm going to speak specifically to Nikon camera bodies, I've had my Z6 II, I think, or maybe even the original. It was completely covered in ice, and it was totally fine. So weather sealing, Nikon, thumbs up. Kase so far, untested. Beautiful night last night, no problems whatsoever. When it comes to look and feeling of these images at 1.4, I really, really like them. Here's a straight out of camera image. I know I've been showing you my Imagine edits. This is straight out of camera JPEG, and this is with my edit. To wrap this up, 85 1.4 from Kase, really, really happy with it. Really happy that it's available for Nikon. Really excited about the fact that there's a magnetic filter ring in the front there. And I hope that that starts coming for more lenses, because that is super helpful. I guess that's maybe one of the benefits of being a filter company first and then rolling into lenses, because now the product line is you get people buying filters, and I am really happy to do that, because if I can just magnetically attach them, it's just so nice. Let me know if you have any questions about this lens, and if you are interested in getting my Imagine profile for free. Start with 1,500 free edits, and then when you do sign up for Imagine officially, you will get access to my profile, usually $250, but for you, it will be free. I also think it's somebody manually mailing it out. So the end of every month, I think, is when that email will come out. So if you don't see it instantly, it is on its way. It just requires a human to send it to you. Thanks so much for watching. Any questions, feel free to put them down below. I'll see you again next time.